Hello everybody, Ben Rogers here at the Raptors Digest Riker. We have another one of those wild news stories. Honestly, I'm gonna play the segment for this. I'm gonna break it out, the news update segment. That's right. We have a Raptors news update, and we've made an agreement, Riker and I, since the Kawhi Leonard trade extravaganza. When the Raptors are put in the betting odds for a player, no matter how lucrative, no matter how ridiculous, we gotta talk about it, because we didn't talk about it with Kawhi. We thought we were getting LaMarcus Aldridge instead of Kawhi. You can look back to those videos, but the reports, the betting odds are out on Damian Lillard. Obviously, we've been covering all of the Damian Lillard news on Courtside Digest, so check out all those videos if you want some updates on that over there. But the Raptors are among the betting favorites to land Damian Lillard if he is traded. Now, there's been reports left, right, and center on if he's getting traded, if he's not. He's demanding a trade. Then Nurkic is coming out and slapping people on Twitter for saying he's traded. So it's very up and down. But Riker, it's not the greatest odds, right? We're plus 1,200. We're below teams like the Knicks, the Sixers, the Warriors, the Heat, the Clippers, the Lakers, the Mavericks, and the Celtics. Then the Raptors.
What was that, half of the NBA?
Yeah, a good few teams there. But we're in the odds. Same thing was the case for Kawhi initially. What are your initial thoughts to Damian Lillard and the Raptors?
You have to you have to look at what other trade packages are out there, because when you're that low in the odds, there's a reason for it. And it's usually because other teams have more incentivizing packages. How high were we, by the way, for Kawhi Leonard? We were actually ranked pretty high, weren't we? Like the bookies had it.
We were low to start, and then it was low to start. We made a video on LaMarcus Aldridge saying, "Oh, this is crazy," and then a week later we're number one, and you and I are freaked out, and then we make an actual video. But initially we were low.
Yeah. Well, which one did we break down? We broke down Golden State Warriors, that they might offer Wiseman a pick and
the Siakam haul.
Andrew Wiggins. Yeah. It's basically the same trade as Siakam. I don't know. What? Let's start with this. Make this digestible. What would the Raptors offer? And is that better than what other teams can offer?
Make this digestible. We might have to make that a segment, considering the name. But, considering Damian Lillard's value, what the Raptors would have to give up, right? It's going to have to be at least Pascal Siakam, probably Fred. I don't know if that's Siakam, Fred, a couple picks maybe. I think if you're giving away two of those guys, then you don't necessarily have to do the Paul George 5 first-round picks. But if you want to compete with those top-tier offers, top-tier deals, then you're probably going to have to give up two of your main stars. And
I'm just going to say right now, I'm not even trading Fred VanVleet and Pascal Siakam. What team is left at that point? Gary Trent Jr., Boucher, and OG. But I don't know. Adding Damian Lillard, that's not all of a sudden a significantly improved team. Yeah, but Jalen Suggs, he's going to play off the bench behind Gary Trent Jr. So I'm just going to say it, Ben. I wouldn't do that trade. I know it's Damian Lillard. I know you're saying he's the best point guard in the NBA right now. Maybe a little bit behind Curry.
Behind Curry, Not
one of the most clutch
Kyrie,
players.
You goofball.
If you didn't see that, check out our Courtside Digest video breaking down our takes on, I guess, the top players in the NBA. Ben, do you agree with me? I wouldn't do that trade. I wouldn't trade it.
Yeah, no, because it's going to have to be probably picks added to that too. And, Fred and Siakam, it's tough, right? That's a deal that just doesn't really make sense for the Toronto Raptors. But I guess, what if we got Covington back? What if we got a piece back from the Blazers?
Oh, you'd 100%. You'd need a 4 or a 5, or at least the combo 3-4, because you need perimeter defense if you're losing Pascal Siakam. Yeah, but we still are very weak at the center spot. We got to figure out what's going to happen this offseason. We're assuming Ken Birch comes back, but we still want one more thing to happen.
Nurkic?
If Siakam and Fred VanVleet are acquired for Lillard, I would assume that they'd want somebody else ridiculous for Nurkic as well.
Yeah. Well,
here's what I'm going to say. Let's put it to points.
Okay.
Points. How many points per game is Damian Lillard giving you? 30?
30. We'll call it 30.
Right? Pascal Siakam's giving you 22. Fred VanVleet's giving you more than 8. So just that
He
simple
gave
numbers
us,
exchange.
Fred had more points than Siakam last season.
Yeah, well, there you go. And
I
Pascal
hope he's
Siakam
giving
sucked.
us
That's what
more
I'm
than
saying.
yeah.
Like the radar wasn't on Fred VanVleet for being terrible. He was
Yeah.
not as good as we would have hoped, but it was on Pascal Siakam for being bad. People hate him. They want him out. He still averaged 22 points per game.
Yeah.
So you're not replacing the points, regardless if where the conversation shifts onto you would do the trade is if you manage to make the playoffs because of Damian Lillard's clutchness, his ability to take over games, to win series on his own. You become improved. But listen, you're a worse regular season team if you're trading just those two guys for Damian Lillard.
Well, the thing about it is, right, and if you're doing that in a vacuum, sure, right? Like Fred VanVleet, Pascal Siakam, they're a better duo, they're a better tandem than just Damian Lillard, right? But the NBA teams, they're not a vacuum, and we've used this analogy. A lot of people that talk about basketball use the analogy, and you trade your 4 quarters for $1 every single time, even if it's equal value. And in this case, it's probably two 50-75 cent pieces for $1, right? So your Dame dollar, you're giving up two 50-cent pieces, two 75-cent pieces, even though the Raptors might be losing that and they might have to give up picks on top of it, right? You're getting that 1 star. And then you can add a Trent there at the shooting guard. You have your Suggs or whoever you want to draft with that 4th pick. You could move OG to the power forward. You can even play Boucher at the power forward and whoever you want at center, right? So you have that true superstar in that lineup. And I think it's fair to call Damian Lillard that level of player. Just his level of clutches. He single-handedly won series. And if you look at some of those Blazers rosters he's taken deep in the playoffs, in the Western Conference, right? That's a guy that's on another level, right? So if we can fit a roster around him, which we know Masai Ujiri can, the same way we had to give up a lot of assets for, our franchise player and a young player and a pick for Kawhi Leonard, maybe, it's tough giving up Fred VanVleet and Siakam, but I don't see how this deal gets done without Pascal Siakam, but I think...
4th?
Yep.
Future? Fred? OG. I would prefer to deal OG in this trade. If all the things that we're saying about superstar, OG is very far away from
I'm not giving
being
up
a guy who
4
can
and
take over
OG.
games.
4 and OG is more valuable than Siakam.
It is more valuable, but think about it. Our team is better if we bring in Damian Lillard and still have Pascal Siakam on the team. That's a good duo. If we trade away Siakam and Fred VanVleet, all of a sudden, Chris Boucher is our starting 4, who's, he's only a true backup 4 right now, and we still don't have a center. So like, OG's not that guy. He's not the second best player on an NBA team.
But you look at just his ability to switch, and you're adding 4 into that too. That's a tough piece. Could be a superstar caliber player, right? Do you think the Blazers might accept a Fred 4 and a bunch of picks? Right, that sort of route, young players, Malachi Flynn, Chris.
Because listen, they're willing to trade. They're willing to trade CJ McCollum. I know Philadelphia 76ers would chomp all over that, right? They're probably got some good deals on the go for CJ. So if they're willing to do that, Nurkic, they might even be willing to deal him. Lillard, he's the cream of the crop. He's probably among the top 5 NBA players this season. They have
Bubble
their
MVP.
choice, and Fred VanVleet, I'm sorry, he's just not near enough to get it done, Ben. I think we both know that.
Yeah, but if you add those picks, right, the same way for Paul George, right, and that the season, I know Paul George's value is tanked with the injuries and the stuff and the just playoff P moments, but him coming off OKC, he was all NBA first team. He's probably at the same level of value, right? It was just Shai Gilgeous-Alexander who wasn't at the level Fred VanVleet's at, and then a bunch of picks to get him in there, and none of those picks from the Clippers are going to be the level of the 4th pick in the draft. So maybe a Fred VanVleet 4th pick and then 3 of your future firsts coming in. What are your thoughts on that potential trade there? Because then you have a Lillard, Gary Trent Jr., maybe Malachi Flynn as well. Lillard, Gary Trent Jr., OG, Siakam, Khem Birch, right? You're rocking with that lineup. Would you sacrifice the future? Would you sacrifice all those picks and such for a Damian Lillard, or do you think Dame's not
because he's young enough, Pascal is young enough, OG is young enough. You're fine to run with that. Gary Trent Jr. You're not trading him back to the Portland Trailblazers. So this is where I assumed the conversation was going to go, because it doesn't make. Yeah, maybe Fred VanVleet and Siakam would do it. I don't see how that makes the team better. That to me, that makes the team worse.
Yeah.
You don't want to trade OG. We're putting our GM hats on. Maybe our fans, the people who are watching this, they also wouldn't want to trade OG. If the best possible trade we're willing to put out there
to any OG trade.
And OGs, if the best trade we're willing to put forward is Fred, some sort of filler, deep roster guy, and all of our picks, all of our futures, now we can have that conversation. Well, what's everybody else that's ahead of us offering? Because wouldn't Malcolm Brogdon and a bunch of futures, wouldn't that be more incentive than Fred VanVleet?
Not Fred VanVleet.
You don't think so?
Bro, Fred VanVleet, he won a championship on Malcolm Brogdon. He was splashing 6 threes a game on Brogdon when he was with the Bucks. No way they're
all right. So I don't even think Indiana is ahead of them. But who is ahead of them? It's foolish that the Lakers are always
back up.
Okay,
so the first one's the New York Knicks. RJ Barrett, some first round picks, maybe a Mitchell Robinson. What are your thoughts?
I like that because if you're trading Young, right, you might as well fully commit to Young. Now the thing is that 4th pick in this year in a 4-person draft, that might hold a lot of weight, right? But we'll discount the Knicks because they'd have to truly want to go young and rebuild. So that's dark horse. You can't compete with that. If that's how they
I don't know. I think the 4th pick could have some serious value there, depending on how you value RJ Barrett. Then you have the Philadelphia 76ers.
Ben, would they do that trade? They'd obviously do that trade.
Over Fred? And the 4th pick? They don't have any picks like ours.
But here's the thing.
They don't have any picks like ours.
Yeah, and Ben's value is pretty low right now. I don't know if
we were talking Ben for CJ McCollum. Now maybe Ben, Matisse, and all these guys, but they don't have their picks either, and those picks they don't have anything as valuable as the 4. So I think we can feel the better offer holding back Pascal Siakam than the Philadelphia 76ers. Then we got the G State Warriors.
I like that Wiseman, and then they get 7, 14. Andrew Wiggins maybe.
But is 7 and 14th worth more than a 4? Which I don't think it is.
But what we're saying is we're only offering Fred VanVleet and picks. They're offering
Fred VanVleet, Malachi,
solid.
Picks.
Yeah, but still, they're offering a legitimate center, a good defender, a good two-way guy in Andrew Wiggins, who took a step forward in his career this year, and then potentially picks as well. Potentially picks as well. I think that's a better trade.
That's
for the Trailblazers.
That's fair. It depends on how many picks each team is willing to give up. One thing to be noted about that is obviously the Golden State Warriors. They're in the same division as the Portland Trailblazers in the Western Conference. So close cities, usually teams, when they trade a superstar, they want to get them out of at least their division. Yeah. So that's one thing to look at. The Miami Heat, Ryker.
To me, they got nothing.
No.
Unless they're trading. They got nothing.
Yeah, and they're not trading Bam. I don't think that's the case. LA Clippers and LA Lakers. Can we just write those guys off?
We write them off. They're always there in the odds because people want them to go to these teams.
People will spend their money on those guys.
And then we watch and they turn around. The Portland Trailblazers will trade for Talen Horton-Tucker. And then we'll just be like, what? Like, this league obviously has something.
Not for Lowry, but for whatever. But Dallas Mavericks.
Kristaps, I don't know. I'm not super high on Dallas Mavericks. There's some homer bias coming out right now. I still think
Porzingis is a negative asset at this point, right?
Yeah.
Right. So not a lot of picks, not a lot of high picks. Right. That 4th pick, it's a valuable piece. That's something you gotta consider. You gotta take into consideration. And then finally, the Boston Celtics.
I think if you were Boston, you'd trade Jaylen Brown.
Yeah, but I don't know if they will. I don't know if that's something they will do. If the Celtics are willing to trade Brown and picks and give them other load offer, they got the best deal possible. I think they beat the Warriors. They beat us. Jaylen Brown's a really nice piece.
They'd have the best.
Yeah, except if the Raptors were willing to offer Siakam. Then I would say we.
But again, if I put my GM hat back on, I'd trade OG, and all of a sudden OG our pick and Fred. Now
you would trade Fred, OG, and our 4th.
Yeah, you went on your rant about having a superstar. You trade for superstars.
Oh no!
And then you make the rest work, and we have a legitimate second option. Dude, how good was Pascal Siakam as a second option when he had a legitimate superstar?
He was good. He was a good player.
He was
really
but
good
now
basketball.
He was really good. And then what if we're able to sign and trade Kyle Lowry for somebody? You start filling in the rest.
Who's playing small forward? Bembry? Utah?
Small forward.
Yeah. Those
Gary Trent
switchable
Jr.?
guys. Well, Gary Trent's our two guard at that point.
Yeah, I know he's our two.
DeAndre Bembry, get working on that 3-point shot. We're gonna be, it's an interesting take. Obviously we should have probably got the trade machine out before this, but I kind of like the stream of consciousness between you and I on this this podcast.
But here's the thing. To me, okay, I'm gonna finish off by going back to Golden State Warriors trade. Mm-hmm. I would like that the most if I was Portland, because you're trading away a point guard and you're bringing back positional.
Yeah.
I don't know if you'd say positional needs, because they obviously have Anthony Simons and Robert Covington and everything. But like Andrew Wiggins, he's a solid player. He gives you scoring, he gives you defense, and you have maybe a better big potentially than Enes Kanter, and then you'd still try to keep rocking with Nurkic as your starting big man. Mm-hmm. And then we know that there's a glut or a huge mass of point guards available in the NBA. So you find one that's playable at your starting center, but then you probably run a lot of your offense through CJ McCollum. I think that's the best offer, unless Jaylen Brown was on the table.
Yeah, that's the one we'd have to compete with, but there's a lot of moving pieces, a lot of factors that come into play. But honestly, coming into this one, I thought it was crazy unlikely, especially with the trade odds and all that. And another thing too, Damian Lillard's under contract for a good few seasons, so even if we got him, it wouldn't be like a 1-year Kawhi rental.
Low risk. Yeah.
So it's very low risk for your team.
And he's not injury prone, which is huge.
Yeah, no, for 100%. So this is a really interesting move. Maybe we'll have to get a Lillard watch if the rumors pick up. Obviously, Kawhi Leonard, the odds were low to start. We ended up acquiring him. We had to make the video on this, but let us know what you guys think in the comment section below. Do you think the Raptors can acquire Damian Lillard this offseason if he demands a trade? I think right now it's looking like he's not going to get moved, but who knows what will happen? We got to jump on this early if it's going to happen, but let us know in the comment section below. Check out the Instagram, the TikTok, all that cool stuff. You're the best to make this far. Ryker, any last words on Dame Dollar to the Toronto Raptors?
I think we have the third best odds. I think we can lock that in right now. Third best odds. See what happens as it plays out.
Book it.
Cheers.